Before we dive into this episode, I have a really quick announcement that I'm actually really excited to share with you. If you're listening to the Sacred Roots podcast, I know it's because you've had a spiritual awakening. You know there's more out there than what you've been taught. And you also want to use that knowledge, use that wisdom, use those rituals to really unlock your highest potential and express all of who you are. And you might have tried to do that and also address these topics with your friends, but they've probably told you that you were too witchy, too crazy, too out there. I mean, that definitely happened to me when I was on my spiritual path. Well, if that's you as well, it's probably because you haven't found your tribe yet. And this is why I've created the Swan Temple, because so many of us are awakening, whatever that means to you, but realizing that there's more out there, that we are supported by the invisible. And then we want to explore that, but we don't always know where to find the good information that's really going to support us, inspire us. And this One Temple is that space. It's a sacred space for you to connect with yourself, but also to connect with others. Because as women, it's super important for us to find our tribe. When you think about the story of the ugly duckling is actually a swan. But it feels like the ugly duckling because it's surrounded by ducks. You are a swan. You are an hypersensitive, empathic, powerful woman that needs to find her tribe of swans in order to thrive. As women, we really thrive when we are in community. We co regulate our nervous systems. And it's when we can be seen and witnessed by others that we can actually start to really see ourselves. And so the Swan Temple is my divine feminine community where we gather twice a month for workshops that I lead and expert sessions with amazing guests that I have invited into the community so that you can learn, you can expand, you can heal, you can grow spiritually, you can uncover more of the unseen. And mostly you can do that in a fun and playful way while being super connected with other women, like-minded sisters, witches, priestesses, women entrepreneurs, and modern mystics who are craving that community. Ancient cultures had these sacred circles where women would come together, tell stories around the fire. We don't live like that anymore. But today, with the internet, we have the amazing opportunity to be able to come together online in communities like these. And cherry on the cake, I'm really excited because this year we are also organizing a retreat with the Swan Temple community. So get on the wait list if this is all calling you, because I will be reopening the doors May 1st with Beltane, which is the fire celebration where we let go of the old and call in the new. I will be hosting an event as well, but more details will follow on that. But join the waitlist to make sure to be the first to grab a spot in the Swan Temple so that you can join this divine feminine community and join our retreat that's going to be in August in Belgium. I'm really excited to welcome you all in this community. And now let's finish the talk and dive into today's episode. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Sacred Roots podcast. Today, we have Leah with us. Leah is a meditation teacher, and we're going to dive into the mystery of what meditation really is, how it can help us on our spiritual journey, your journey with meditation as well. But first, I would love for you to introduce yourself.
Yes, so I'm a meditation teacher, as you mentioned, and I'm living here where we are in Bali for the last 6 years, but I'm from the US prior to that. And I have not always been teaching meditation. Prior to that, I was actually, I studied psychology and neuroscience, and then I had intended to work in therapy, and there was quite a shift in my life at that point, and I sort of fell into the business realm and started working with tech companies in the Pacific Northwest and some pretty big tech companies, and that was quite a whirlwind, and it was fun and exciting, and great pay, and but it was also quite stressful. So the flip side was there was a lot expected of me and of everyone, and really in that world. I started to develop anxiety disorder and panic attacks, and I was just really struggling with how to manage my energy and take care of myself. It's funny, you know, we can learn all about psychology, but to apply it to ourselves is sometimes tricky. So
Yeah.
I started running all the time to sort of run from my demons, and it helped a lot. You know, those endorphins of running was sort of my meditation at the time. And then I injured myself, and I had a doctor tell me, you need to,
Slow
yeah,
down.
your running career is over. You damaged your ankles. You need to do something low impact. So it was yoga. It was yoga for me. And of course, like being the insanely, you know, hardcore person that I am, I dove straight into yoga, teacher training right away. um, and I was really fortunate that my first teacher training was with a man who was a former Vedic monk, and he was he's a great yoga teacher, but he's an outstanding meditation teacher, and he really taught me the whole breadth. Well, I'd like to say the whole breadth, but the tip of the iceberg of meditation, and it really transformed my life and the anxiety that I was dealing with, and it became really clear that I needed to make a shift and move towards what I had really intended as my life in the world of wellness and helping people. So that's kind of a long-winded journey to get here, and
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. And I love sharing about meditation because I am passionate about it, because it's shifted my life so much. It's helped me in my relationships and in my physical and mental and emotional well-being. So that's where I'm at.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
How is it for you to like sit on the mat the first times and try to calm those thoughts? And because I feel like we have this idea that meditation, you need to have a quiet mind, but the reality is that we have a little monkey jumping up there.
Yeah.
And so what is your perspective when we start? How do we address that jumping monkey in our minds?
It's funny you say that. That's a really common term, the monkey mind. And I thought that way a lot when I first started too. I was really experiencing moments where I had these blissful experiences, and that was powerful and amazing. But the tricky part was I became very attached to that being my experience in meditation. So once I had experienced something blissful, I then made it my purpose and goal every other time I sat or went into a meditative state to recreate that outcome. And then I was bringing my same methods of control mechanisms that I was doing in my everyday life right into my practice. And then it became a struggle.
Yeah.
So it was no longer this curious thing of exploration and relaxation that led to that blissful experience. Now it was, I'm going to try to do something about these thoughts that are coming up because they're the enemy of me experiencing this. And so then I hit my first real big obstacle in my meditation journey was, how do I overcome my thoughts? And what I learned, luckily, fortunately, I really have met some incredible teachers, and I brought this to my teacher, Dr. Lauren Roche, and he shared with me, you know, your thoughts are supposed to happen in meditation. He's like, he really shifted my whole perspective. I learned that thoughts are part of the way the mind-body system releases stress and tension that's been stored in the nervous system and in the body.
Interesting.
Yeah. So when we go to rest and relax in meditation, that relaxation that starts to happen within seconds releases physical tension. And physical tension, it takes a lot of energy to store tension in the body because it's usually some sort of thought or emotional energy that we're trying to suppress and not feel. So we just sort of trap it in the body. It's like someone cuts you off. Oh, you just kind of stick it in your body somewhere, like right here. You know, your spouse says something to you that irritates you. Oh, that's going to get stuck right here in the back of the neck. Yeah. That's a whole, you're a pain in my neck.
Yeah.
That's where that comes from.
Too much on my shoulders.
You're a pain in my ass.
Yeah.
That all comes from, we actually store those pains in our body. And so when we go to relax and release that tension, it doesn't just disappear, because energy doesn't disappear.
No, transforms.
Yes, but we have to It's like cleaning out the desk in our office or
Yeah.
cleaning out our closet that we stuffed lots of things in.
Yeah.
In order to clean it out, we have to make a bigger mess. While doing so, we need to sort. Oh, do I need this one? Nope.
I
Oh,
love
do
that
I need
image.
this?
It's true. Before being able to clean your closet, it's first like complete
It's a total,
chaos.
yeah. And then you're sorting things out, and you're like, "Don't judge me. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm just cleaning." Um, and then finally, you can have that pile over here of things that you no longer need and that you can release, and stuff over here that is now sorted in its proper place. And these are more urgent bills that need to be tended to, and these things are just nice things that I can keep in my memory. So that's what the brain's doing when that energy releases. It's going, "Hey, is this something?" If it has adrenaline coated around it, do we need to attend to this right now? Is this an emergency? Do I need to handle this? And so that's the sorting and release process. And most people judge ourselves and we say, "Oh, I'm doing this all wrong. This is not supposed to be happening." So we try our best to push it back down or to push it away. But it really only just recycles for later. It just gets pushed down, and then we have to engage some level of strain to keep it there, to keep it at bay. And that prevents us, that little bit of strain prevents us from actually reaching the next stages of meditation, which is we get to restore all the blood flow and Shakti, the prana life force that flows to all those areas through all the channels that were too tense to let it flow before. And that's when the cellular repair happens in the body. And we start to heal.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
So what you're saying is that those thoughts that are actually appearing in our meditation, it's the cleansing of the psyche.
Yes. So if it's anything that was like in the past, it's called the review phase. So to-do lists, unfinished conversations, unfinished business, old emotional wounds, anything that has been neglected or that needs tending to, typically will show itself at some point in your meditation journey, because you've created this like safety space, this sanctuary where it suddenly has the place to feel safe to rise up and say, "Hey, let's release this, or let's process this, let's look at this." Because the mind body system wants to release that stuff. It really wants to do its job to help us.
And you're giving it the space.
You're giving it the space.
By silencing.
But most people stop and they go, "I'm just frustrated by this experience. I don't want this to happen, as I'm supposed to have an empty mind, right?" Like, but we can't shortcut there.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive to say welcome all the thoughts, but it's true. It does lead to that more spaciousness, because we can start to sift through those things. If you lose a loved one, or you go through a difficult breakup, or you lose some big part of your sense of self, it's not like that stuff just releases the first time you meditate.
No.
It'd be nice, but typically that takes time and continually letting it be there and show itself, and then letting your breath meet it, and being relaxed and poised as you acknowledge what's there. And it's like giving yourself a hug with compassion and saying, "Thank you for showing me, like, this is something that needs tending to." And it's like giving compassion to your child or to a little kid who needs some tending to, that's got an owie. We can just be that loving parent for ourselves. And in the next moment, bring our attention to something that we love, like a mantra or sound of something beautiful.
Would it be correct to say then that when you begin meditation, at first it's about just honoring all the thoughts that are there, because they're really there to help you release, help you heal,
Yes.
help you bring to your awareness what you need to deal with.
Yeah.
And then once you've dealt with the chaos, because it's literally chaotic in our minds sometimes, then maybe later in your practice, or later, a few months later, when you become better at it, it's about sitting longer in the silence.
So what I find for most people that are first really sincerely making meditation a continuous commitment, that they have a backlog to deal with. It's like a freight train that has many, many cars of baggage, of thoughts and unfinished business. And we start to dump those and release those and welcome them. Yeah, welcoming is a major skill of meditation, and effortlessness comes after we are very masterful at welcoming, and then we can apply less and less effort. So we want to really get to that point where we're in this welcoming state, and our attitude towards what is showing up for us is, in the very least, accepting or neutral, and ideally curious, compassionate, or even wonder and awe, or gratitude. Like, thank you for releasing. Thank you for showing up for me. Thank you for being here and like feeling safe to bring this up right now so we can be processed. And when we can have that attitude, we tend to not think of what's happening as chaos. We start to think of it like this orchestra playing. You know, there's the conductor, and it's like, over here is sounds, and over here is sounds, and over here it's just incredible music playing, and a symphony or a circus of life is happening all within us and then all around us. And so we start to not be bothered so much by what's there. And I'd like to say that it's this linear line that you could meditate for a few months and then suddenly there's always more and more space. But the fact of the matter is, you could be meditating for 20 years and come down to a meditation in one day and just have completely full of thoughts at a very rapid pace, because life demands a lot of us and it's throwing us curveballs all the time. And if you live in the world or the path of intimacy, then you're going to have bills to pay, maybe children to care for, relationships, whether they're friendships, family, or personal love. And you've got social media, and you've got career, and you've got ambitions and drive, and all these things to think about. So it's not like it's going to just end.
No.
Unless you just did everything.
Unless you end up somewhere in a mountain just meditating
right.
all day.
And that would be the path of the sadhu, or the path of the monk, or the renunciate. And so a lot of that language that we hear in meditation, which is the monkey mind, calming the monkey mind, which is so common to hear, or empty the mind, or still the mind, slow down, just focus in one point, and let go of all the distractions. A lot of these terms that we hear actually originated from the lineage of the sadhu, the renunciate, the monk, or someone living in an ashram somewhere, because they really behooves them to get rid of all that ambition and all the
but
libido
for a modern life, it's just
not realistic to expect that you're going to go into your meditation and that there's not going to be any thoughts.
You just called life the path of intimacy.
Yeah,
I thought that was so beautiful. Where does that come from?
It's just something I heard from my teacher, and the path of the householder, they call it sometimes, but I don't really like that term so much. And
no, the path of intimacy is much more romantic.
The path of action or the path of intimacy, you know, it's because you're really, you're not so much trying to be detached from everything.
You're being intimate with everything. You're
being intimate, and you're finding the optimal level of attachment and detachment. It's not complete attachment, but it's not complete detachment either. Could you imagine being a parent and being completely detached from your children?
Oh, no, they need us to be attached.
Right. It's embedded in the biology.
Yeah.
So we're finding that right balance. And that's where Tantra talks about the weaving of it's you think of a loom, or we think of a stringed instrument, and you have to tune it all the time, or you have to move to find the right optimal level of tension, not too loose, not too tight, just the right tension. And that's what we're doing in our meditation. When we're living the path of intimacy, we're finding the right level of tension between our hearts and another.
I feel like that's such a deep topic because, like you said, the Buddhist monks taught that we have to be detached and we have to let go of so much. But I feel like if you're too detached, you're not really living life. You're not really honoring your emotion or being into things, and like we're here to experience it all. We're here to feel it all. And so there's a right balance in not being too attached, because it can be unhealthy. But like there are so many reasons why we need to be attached to the mother. The children needs to be attached to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I say we need to be attached to the mother, I was thinking of Mother Earth actually. It's important for us to have a secure attachment to her to thrive really physically and emotionally.
It can be easy to lose your empathy when you become so detached. It's almost like not relating to humanity anymore, or you're kind of out there in the ethers.
Yeah, and so that's really something that I actually don't resonate so much from the teachings of the Buddha, even though the Buddha had a lot of amazing teachings. I feel that we need to be attached. We need to live this life. That's why we came here, to taste all the colors of the rainbow, all the dimensions, and really make the most out of it.
Yeah, I think it's just it's so many different schools of thought out there, and
it's true.
And everyone finds what
works for them.
And some people like really feel really called to that more disciplined style of the path of the renunciate, the sadhu, and it makes sense to be have a lot of rules and hoops to jump through to overcome your attachment to the material world. But if unknowingly people who don't actually want to live that way, like you and me, start to practice with the perspective of techniques that were derived from that, we may be unknowingly practicing something or having a perspective about ourselves that can lead to ultimately decreasing our libido, decreasing our connection to other people, and even lowering our ambition to create something in the world, right? Because we're subduing those creative energies and the sexual energies and so I've had women come into my class and talk to me afterwards. It's happened several times, and I've spoken with other teachers who've also had this happen, who said people will come after like 10 or 20 years of practicing very specific styles. I'm not going to say necessarily what they are, because
you don't want to make some people angry.
It's going to get real heated, real polarized in here. But they've said to me, I don't know where I went wrong. I just feel disconnected from people so much. Like I just want to live in the woods and be away from civilization. And I don't have a sex drive anymore. I don't even feel much empathy. It's almost like I don't feel human anymore. And I've actually had that said to me, and I knew instantly.
That's the meditation you did.
It's the style of meditation, but not even necessarily the technique that was used. It's the mindset and the attitude around how we treat our thoughts and our emotions and our energies and the rhythms of life flowing through us. Because the path of the sadhu says, detachment, overcome the ego. But if you want to live in the world in the path of intimacy, you actually want to have a healthy ego.
You want to love your ego as much as you can.
You want to have an ego, because when we think of ego as like, I'm going to be so grandiose, I'm going to think really too highly of myself. But actually that happens when you have a low ego.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's funny that we don't recognize that that's actually the opposite. So
I've done a whole episode, actually, episode number 2 of this podcast is all about what the ego is, how it works, how we want to treat it, connect with it, and actually love it. And the ego is a vehicle for the soul, like we really need it. And like you said, if we think of someone that has a big ego, it's actually someone that has low self-esteem. And so I love that. So in your perspective, because again, like there are many different styles of meditation and we need to pick what works for us. But in your perspective, what is the purpose of meditation? Why do we meditate?
It's connecting to our own aliveness. The best definition I heard was a deep dive into our aliveness. And that can take on many different forms. So if you want to connect to something that you love really dearly in meditation, that's connecting to that sense of aliveness in you that can love, that has the capacity to love and to feel. Or connecting to our emotion, connecting to all of our senses so deeply. So that's why I really love sensual styles of meditation. Um,
I really like that because we often associate meditation with stillness.
yeah,
And
but
so when you use the word aliveness,
it
it
can be
feels
wild
like
and
something that's
fluid.
moving.
Yeah, I
And
absolutely
so many
love inviting
colors.
movement into meditation. I find that's so helpful for people because, especially if we're running on this busy world, and then we go to sit, a lot of us feel like our energy is just ping-ponging back and
Yeah.
forth inside, and it's like restless. And we don't know what to do with that energy, and we're overwhelmed by it, and it can be hard. We just want to jump up and do something. We want to take action. So for a lot of people, moving the body first is a great gateway, and then there'll come a point where they just crave a little bit more stillness. But even in that supposed stillness, there's so much activity and rhythm happening inside that I don't ever really like to use that term stillness in meditation. I also usually I avoid the term focus, because a lot of people tend to take that word and assume it means laser like concentration, and I'll actually see people crunching their brow and straining.
Yeah.
Like, you try it right now, like you feel that tension that's building all around your forehead and your eyes. And then if you instead go from focus and use the word, expand your awareness into the space within your body or the space around your body, it's like
you relax.
Oh, so instead of narrowing in, I'm expanding. Or instead of being laser like concentrating, I am becoming curious about something, or just exploring a sensation. And then there's like this dance that you're playing with it. It's like this gentle movement of like gently holding it, like you'd hold. I have puppies at my house right now.
Yes.
And I have a 2-year-old with puppies. Very tricky.
They're so sweet.
But explaining to a 2-year-old how to hold a puppy, it's like, be gentle, be gentle. Oh, don't pick it up by its tail. Oh, don't hold it too tight, but don't drop it, So it's that way with whatever we're bringing our attention to in meditation. It's like, can I gently hold it, but also move with it, play with it, like give it the sturdiness that you need with your attention, but don't squeeze it too tight.
Yeah. It's a dance.
Yeah.
Like when Benji saw the puppies for the first time, he had like tears of joy in his eyes. It was so moving.
So beautiful. He was just like, oh, like
so
overwhelmed
sweet
by the emotion of his heart being opened by these puppies. And it's like, oh, if only we got all just let ourselves feel that deeply.
Yeah.
Like a child, And so when we talk about emotion and talk about meditation, it's like connecting with the aliveness is just like welcoming all parts of ourselves, and then being with what we love and being curious about our breath or a sound or a sensation or visualization, and then welcoming the thoughts as they flow through. And just this whole thing is this act of self-love. And
yeah, it's so beautiful, especially like puppies and babies and everything that's teeny tiny. I don't know why it activates us, and I feel like it melts our hearts and reminds us of the beauty of life.
Yeah,
I feel so. It was
and
so
sometimes
beautiful.
the beauty of life is like this, is the pain that we feel too, which can be like the ache in our hearts, which can be very like a holy sensation. Like I remember your son, so cute, the little puppy, he was holding it, and then it kind of like slithered away on its like 2 front feet with its eyes still closed, and he was like, oh,
no, I want the puppy,
come back to me. And it was
I'm
this like
you.
It was this his heart like when like, oh no, come back. And don't we experience that so much? And to feel,
it's the attachment we were talking
about. And so many gateways into meditation are like feeling the connection we have with someone that we maybe long for or miss, like that ache, and like just dive deeper into that sensation and let it open up a whole new world for us. Or when rage comes, to like feel those fires of anger and how it's motivating us to do something, like to activate us in some way, or to like, one of the books that I love, the Radiant Sutras, my teacher wrote, and it's 112 meditations, like ancient meditations, and he translated it from Sanskrit into English, and one of them is like seeing the flash of joy that appears on our face when we see a loved one after a long absence. And like, you ever been in that situation where you're somewhere and then all of a sudden you see a familiar face or a loved one, and it's just like this. And what if we took that split second and we just opened that window and we expanded it and we just dove into that flash that rises up through us, and we remembered that flash and that feeling of joy that overtakes us, and we just dove into that feeling for a while and we experienced our aliveness in that way. Isn't that what we want more of in our world? So we could create that in our meditation. And
that's the beauty of love, beauty of attachment and feeling. I want to go back to what you were saying, how when you use certain words, it creates a certain reaction in your students that you meditate with. And I know it's a whole conversation that when you meditate, you also access your subconscious. That's why all these images and thoughts are coming up. And that's why it's very important to pay attention to the words that you're actually using when you're making someone meditate or guiding someone through a meditation, because certain words could potentially be harmful or not in the best interest of the meditator. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. It's a good question because it's not talked about enough. And it certainly can be well intended but have unintended consequences when we use words like, and this is going to be funny because we hear these words all the time, so don't kill me, but like I said, focus. If you really interviewed lots of people and you found out how they interpret the word focus or concentrate, it's going to lead to invoking strain, which is the opposite of what we've talked about, wanting to create that
openness and
relaxation response. So I use different terms like explore, expand into, flow your attention.
Bring your awareness.
When we say, when a thought comes, just bring yourself back to your breath. How many times have you heard that?
A million times.
Yeah, I've even said it. What we want to remember is that it's sort of like those puppies back again. If once the puppies are, I'm trying to train them to walk on a path with me and they go on the wrong path, then I'm going to like be tugging them and pulling them back, right? It's almost like a disciplinary action. It's like, no, you went the wrong way. You have to come back here and start over again. So we tend to associate coming back with, I went the wrong way. I made a mistake. I need to go a new direction.
Interesting.
And have to start from scratch again. And so there's this, it might not even be conscious, but there's like this subtle little internal slap that we give ourselves. Like,
you did something
wrong.
Back here.
To think a thought is bad. Now I have to start over again. I just wasted my energy, or something was wasted in this experience. And then we start to judge and rate our meditation practice based on how little thoughts we can have. So instead of saying come back, we like to say flow your attention forward. I think of it always like a flow state. You're always going forward into something, whether you're going forward into a journey of thought, and then you notice and you remember, I'm meditating. You remember, like, I'm having this beautiful fantasy about the future because my mind body system's trying to choreograph the best outcome for me. So it's naturally doing that in my meditation, and I get sort of not lost in it again. And I don't like to say lost because that's another implying you took in the wrong path, but like I get absorbed into this journey of thought. And I'm so engaged with it and thrilled by it. And then suddenly I remember I'm meditating. And in that moment, you can either be the thought police and give yourself a demerit, or you can think of it like, oh, isn't that interesting? And then flow your attention to where you want it to go. So you're never like, oh, I made a mistake, I got to come back and start over.
It's flow forward.
It's a flow state, for example. Exactly. Like flow your attention right into your breath. So that's another language that might seem minor, but actually can have really profound impact on people.
I can really see that,
Some of the other language is like the word stillness. I try not to use because, again, it implies that being completely still with no movement in your body, no movement in your mind, no movement in your body, emotionally or energetically. It's just not possible.
No.
So it creates an unrealistic expectation for people, and ultimately it leads to frustration and quitting. I also think slowing down, which sounds so nice. Oh, I just want to slow down. I've been so busy. But what most people are not actually wanting to, you can't physically slow down your brain, right? You process images and words and things at a fraction of a second.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to do that. You want to be able to think quickly on your feet when you need to. You want to be able to come up with solutions and ideas when you need to. So we actually don't necessarily want to slow down the workings of our metabolism, the workings of our heart or anything, right? It's impossible to do so. So what we're actually, when we mean slow down and stillness, what we think we're craving is rest. So I like to use the words rest, relax versus stillness and slowing down. Because we can even celebrate the speed at which things are flowing to us in meditation and recognize that because I'm resting and relaxing,
I'm receiving
a lot of things that are coming at perhaps an intense speed.
Yeah.
And celebrate the speed that our mind works. And we can still do that from a relaxed space. It might sound counterintuitive, but what else? I like to avoid the words distractions because, again, it has like this negative connotation. And there's really no distractions of meditation. Everything's welcome. Noise, even the unpleasant emotions and sensations.
And I think that definition that you gave, like connecting with what's alive inside of you, is just, it gives you permission to be chaotic one day, or to be quiet one day, or to be creative one day. Sometimes I'm not an expert meditator at all, but I like to meditate, and sometimes I get my students through meditations too. So I will keep your tricks in mind for sure.
That's what they are, tricks.
Yes, little tricks. Yeah, I don't know if it's the right way to.
No, I know. I'm just
describe them. Your keywords. But sometimes I've had experiences where I would have so many thoughts that I was really excited about. So excited that I just had to get up and start doing them.
Yeah.
Because that's also my energy. I have a lot of fiery energy and masculine energy. And I'm here to create. So when I'm excited by something, I just have to get up and do it. But I've also been blessed with having certain experiences where I would just connect with my heart, consciously open my heart. And I would feel an overwhelming wave of love and gratitude just nourish me, and really feel stillness in those moments. And that's been incredibly beautiful because it's helped me to connect with what's alive inside of me, but also beyond me. I felt that I was actually tapping into what's alive all around me on the planet, and even in the invisible realm.
Yeah.
And that was so beautiful. Is that something that you also invite your students into?
I do. In fact, I have a class that I lead right now called Meet Your Future Self. And so it's very much about going into another realm to meet like our highest self, what we envision. And there's a lot of manifestation involved. And I've also led meditations to connect with your angels in the higher realm, or guardian angels, you could think of it that way, to connect with your ancestors and your lineage.
Nice.
And even your inner child, which is very much the subconscious work.
So you're talking about your future self. What is the connection for you between meditation and manifestation?
So, well, manifestation, I assume probably your listeners, and if you're watching this, you might have heard of this term. So it might already be familiar. But to, like a magnet, attract the people, places, and situations that we really very deeply desire. Another good word that I love that has been demonized a lot in some of the lineages, yet desire when we're on a conscious path is so much like a gift,
Mm.
because a really deep heartfelt desire arises like a gift, an energy, that like a pocket of energy that arises that says there's something here calling you, there's something here for you. So
Yeah.
like that desire for me to move to Bali,
Yeah.
or for you to come to Bali, or the desire to connect with the person that we felt chemistry with. You can probably think of so many experiences in your life where a desire was
Guided
good.
you.
It guided you. It was like your guiding light, and that's actually like the ancients. Desire comes from the Latin root word desiderare, which means to follow one's stars. And so, like, we navigated by starlight, and you can think of it like your internal guidance system, like your internal stars.
I love that. Yeah, I always say desire is life force moving through you.
Yeah.
But you're right. A lot of like ancient spiritual masters or sages, they were like, no, you have to disconnect from your desires. It's again
Desire is the root of all
detachment.
evil, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I mean, you have ego desires and soul desires, and I have a whole other podcast on that.
But once we can
Because
understand
you can-
who that was created for, and understand, those are created for renunciants who took vows of poverty and celibacy, then it makes more sense. Like, is this for me or not? This belief system. So,
and some desires can support you while others might not support you at all.
Yeah.
So it's about being able to identify those as well.
So when go back to your question, meditation can be a time for us to connect to our deepest heartfelt desires. And when we connect with those desires in meditation, it's not from a place of, oh no, I don't have this right now, some place of lack, some place of fear, or feeling like the gap that's between you and where this is at. But it's really from a place of possibility, of, wow, I can feel how my heart is so connected to this thing, and how beautiful and juicy and incredible that there's possibility that exists here for this. And so it's dropping into using your prefrontal cortex and your frontal lobes to create image and visually or physically connect to the idea that you have around what that looks like, what it smells like, what it tastes like, what it feels like.
Slowly bring it into the
like let your senses make it real for you. And that's where we get into that sensual thing again.
Yeah.
And then let your emotions arise that match it. So how would it feel in my body? How would it make me breathe? How would I hold myself with dignity? How would what qualities would I have of joy, of patience, of strength, of courage, and then connect with those things and cultivate that in the moment in your meditation. Like, really connect. It requires us to build. This is why, when we first start meditation, we slowly build the connections to our senses. We slowly build the connections to our emotions, so that we can get to the point where, as a more advanced practitioner, we can cultivate those things in a moment's notice, and we can just connect with gratitude. We can connect with the future desire in a second, and be right there as if it was happening right now. And the more that we stay in that experience, then the more we align ourselves with the person I need to be and the vibration I need to be in for that to occur. So it's like what we radiate, we attract.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. What is today your relationship with meditation? Like, how much do you practice it every day?
Yeah. But it's sometimes if an average person saw me in a day, they probably wouldn't recognize that I'm often meditating, because sometimes it's not as a formal sit practice where the door is closed. Sometimes it is walking through nature, or with my child, connecting with them and feeling the connection I have with, my 2-year-old, which I still call my baby. And
he will forever be your baby.
I know. And other times it's just being in gratitude. And it can be these little micro moments, like these little mini meditations where that just happen for a couple moments out of my day,
where you're completely present.
Yeah, and they're scattered throughout my day. And then I'll also have the more formal sit, which I try to do in the morning. But sometimes it's not possible because my routine's off, and
Of
so I end
course.
up doing
Yeah.
it in the evening, and that's fine too. Like I try to not be so. For me personally, it works to not be so rigid.
Yeah.
For other people, I know it works better to be very disciplined and have
Yeah.
the specific routine that happens all the time. And for me, that doesn't work as well. So it's
Do you know we can actually see that in your human design profile if you actually really built and designed to have routines or not at all?
wait. Okay, so who's designed for more routine? Do you know?
It's one of the arrows. You know a bit about human
A
design?
little bit.
You have the arrows, and so it's the bottom arrow on the left. And if it's pointing to the right, then you're not really thriving on routines, which
Okay,
is
I'm gonna
me.
have to look it up now.
And if it's pointing to the left, you're really good at like routines, always working at the same place, having a routine in the morning, in the evening.
Yeah.
Da, da, da. I mean, Ayurveda would teach you something else. You know, every school has its own teachings. But when I found out that it was actually really good for me to just flow, be very intuitive, not force myself into like schedules that were too rigid.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that makes so much sense because when I work on the bed, at the desk, outside, I work much better than if I'm always working at the desk.
Mm-hmm.
So it's those kinds of like routines and structures, but also routines in your activities.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look up my human design
So
again.
maybe I can just meditate when I drive Benji to the childcare on the scooter. That
Yeah.
might be a little dangerous though around
Well,
here.
actually, I've designed a meditation for you to do while you're driving, which is really funny because that you normally always hear never do meditation while driving, but most of the times I would say yes, don't meditate while you're driving. But I created one that's on the Balance app that is specifically for commuting, whether
Okay.
you're on a bicycle or you're walking or you're driving, and it's all about being really present with what's happening for you right then in that moment, like being very, very aware of the
Because
road
sometimes
and
we
like
just switch off
the
when we
people around you.
drive.
Yeah, it's like being hyper present and aware of everything that's happening around you, and so in that way, I think it actually can help you be a safer driver.
That's definitely true.
and to notice when you get frustrated by things that are happening, and if frustration's arising, to like breathe and let it out.
Yeah.
And you know, because
Nice.
I used to live in LA, and I'm very aware of
Yeah.
road rage.
Traffic. Or
I was not a rager, but I've certainly experienced other people being raging and me
Yeah.
being frustrated. So
Yeah, for sure. I want to finish by asking you what's been your most beautiful experience with meditation.
oh boy, the most beautiful experience. You know, I've had so many beautiful experiences, but what pops up for me in this moment is times when I've meditated with my husband, like as a couple looking at each other's eyes. We've done meditations where it involves eye gazing and really connecting to my heart and to him, to another human being, and seeing them fully and being seen fully, and
Ends up in tears.
inviting gratitude and compassion and so much gratitude and so much compassion, and it's been very heart opening. And yes, it does typically end in tears, but the good kind of tears, the good kind of like release. And I love that style of meditation. I think it's so incredible, and it leads to lots of juicy connection.
Absolutely, because there's so much that you can say through the eyes as well. So it's really just a moment,
and you can feel that
it's
like you can almost feel the softening in your heart, like the armor coming down and melting, and the opening, and then connecting with the other person's heart. And if we usually do it with like a hand on the other person's heart, and like really just feeling the connection between the hands and the eyes and the hearts, and so lovely,
so beautiful.
Yeah,
that's a really nice ritual, even I would say for couples to do every once in a while, to connect with each other.
Yeah,
take the time.
Yeah.
Hey, instead of saying how are you doing, how was your day, to actually just sit together, touching each other's hearts, breathing.
Yeah, and I know it can be awkward too for most people. Like when I lead these for other folks in a workshop, I typically hear some giggling at first or some discomfort that people are trying to avoid looking at each other. I mean, there's some people that really have a hard time looking at another person in the eyes, and I think it's even more important for those folks. But I have a recorded version of this, a guided meditation for this.
Nice.
If anyone's interested.
Where can we find it? Share that.
So you can either find through the Balance app, through the couples meditation. there's a couple single, or I also have one that I can send to you, and you can put in the
Okay.
show notes.
Yeah, put it in the
share
show
with
notes of
people.
the episode.
Yeah,
So people can find you on Instagram. We'll put the link as well in
sure.
the show notes. And then you have a lot of meditations on the Balance app.
I do have hundreds of meditations in the Balance app, actually. It's been a 4-year project, and I have lots of other ones that I offer, like the Meet Your Future Self is not on Balance app, but it's something that I offer once a month, typically on Zoom for free
Nice.
as a workshop, at least for
When's
now.
the next one?
It's going to be in about a week's time, the second Monday of April. What is that date there? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think our podcast episode will be released after, but for the month of
Yeah.
May.
It'll be once a month, so you
Yeah.
can see it on my Instagram. There'll be like a sign up registration, and I do it once a
Beautiful.
month. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
That was
thank
so
you. This was
insightful. I
fun.
learned so much. It was super fun. For anyone that wants to start, where would you tell them to start?
Oh, if you want to start in meditation, I mean, there's so many wonderful meditation teachers and guides, whether it's on the Balance app or another app. There's so many wonderful meditation apps out there that can be a helpful start. But I always try to recommend that you at least connect with a teacher versus just trying to go about it alone, because there's so many times we could do something and, go down the wrong path on our own. There's a lot of stuff you need to sift through out there, like on YouTube and whatnot. So people can connect with me and do private sessions, or you could find another teacher in your area, go to a class, a local class, or use a meditation app. And if you really want to dive deeper and like go full in, I do a meditation teacher training once a year here in Bali in person at the Yoga Barn. And this one's in August 1st through 19th. But there's also a few other really incredible teachers.
How long is
meditation
that?
teacher trainings. 19 days.
19 days.
Yeah, it's a 150
When's the next one?
August 1st through 19th. Yeah.
We're leaving the 27th of July. But
yeah.
we'll come back.
Yeah. Maybe next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll come back.
It's a great experience. Some people come just because they want to deepen their experience. They don't necessarily want to be teachers, but I find it's like coaches or therapists or anyone that could benefit from adding meditation onto what they already offer people. Find a lot out of that too. Yeah.
Definitely interested. Thank you so much, Leah.
Yeah, thank
it was
you.
a blessing to have you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.